Is Meghan Markle relaunching the Tig? Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are talking about Meghan Markle's obsession with being an influencer. Yes, she has gone from the epitome, the low end of being an influencer, to the heights of the monarchy, and then tumbling back into being an influencer because that is her level. She's always been obsessed with trying to match Gwyneth Paltrow. Will she do it? Or will this, like everything else, make Meghan Markle fall completely flat on her face as people, even though Meghan thinks everybody wants her advice, as there was an article from the Telegraph that said, nobody really wants to hear from Meghan Markle about most things, even though she thinks that she is the bearer of all wisdom in the universe. But we'll discuss that today, what it could look like, and look back at the very self-indulgent project, self-obsessed project that is the Tig, the terrible branding for it, and why I don't think it was as successful as Meghan wanted the rest of the world to think it was, and why perhaps it may once again fail when Meghan tries to relaunch it. But if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany, and on this channel I provide compelling royal commentary about the latest news, sometimes a little bit of gossip as well. In addition, I will be reviewing television shows, movies, and sharing a bit about history too. And I will be reporting from the coronation, so if you want my on-the-ground coverage of that, feel free to subscribe. I'm so excited about it. I'll be doing a lot of prep work in April leading up to the coronation, and I cannot wait to go. It's going to be so exciting. A wonderful and historic day for the ages. So I cannot wait to see how it all comes together. And I also have just a couple of other things, a newsletter, Royal Wire. I also have a fashion channel that's on a bit of a hiatus, but should be back soon in April. And then I also have a survey down below if you're interested in coming on a tour trip with me. So I will tour you around certain places in Europe talking about royals. If you're interested in that, there'll be a link for that down below. I had a trip to England, sorry, to London and the Cotswolds, but that's completely sold out. So I'm so excited to go on that with those people, and I just cannot wait. It's gonna be so awesome. Meghan Markle and the Tig. Yes, oh yes. That is coming back. I think it is. I did a video on it actually in November, and it actually didn't end up doing all that well, but we keep getting more and more rumblings of it, and that apparently Meghan Markle just included a recipe, what some people have called a simple recipe in this cookbook, this World Kitchen cookbook, that some people are calling a soft relaunch of the Tig. And why is Meghan Markle so obsessed with relaunching the Tig? Well, Meghan Markle is a narcissist, I believe, and many other people believe that as well. And if you actually read through the Tig is a very self-obsessed, self-centered blog where Meghan Markle talks about herself a lot. Even when she gives people the Tig talk, so she talks to a couple celebrities, most likely their PR assistants asks them about 6 or 7 inane questions that are very simple, like what would you do with your last $10? What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? Those are the type of questions that she asks on that. She spends the introduction talking about herself and maybe her minimal interaction with this person. So it's very much a self-indulgent project, the Tig was. And Meghan Markle, as a narcissist, she loved that. She absolutely loved the Tig. So she wants to bring it back. Is anybody surprised? No? No, me neither. Me neither. I'm really not surprised that even though she was a royal, she could have been changing the world. She's still, at the end of the day, an influencer. Now, I'm somewhat of that, so I don't totally denounce the sphere, but what I have an issue with overall with the Tig is that Meghan tells us that she's this grand person, she's this philanthropist, that she's going to impart all this wisdom, and that she's so great, she's so well-traveled and well-cultured, and she loves food, and yada, 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 yada. But at the end of the day, if you actually read through the Tig, Meghan Markle is a vain, shallow, vapid person, and that is reflected in the Tig. There's nothing deeper to it. And the issue I think Harry and Meghan always come up with, because Harry's been dragged into this now, is that they have these very lofty goals, or they tell people they're these great leaders and influencers and all this stuff. And yet at the very end of the day, when you actually look at the bottom, they're really just after the money, they're after the fame. Harry did that very self-indulgent therapist interview with Dr. Gabor Mate, and we were all charged almost $40 for this. I listened to the interview because I wanted content for my channel, and I just like to get it from the source and not a secondhand. So I want to make sure I actually listen to it rather than having somebody else tell me secondhand what they heard. Now, granted, of course, a lot of what I do is secondhand, but if there's an opportunity for me to see something live, I do it. So listening to this interview, they charged us $40. We got a copy of the book, which apparently has come in, which I will be returning, although I'll do something fun with it. But I will be returning the book because I have absolutely no desire to actually own a copy. I'd rather actually use it to get other real books. But it was such a self-indulgent money grab because they shipped this book to us after the interview. Wouldn't you think it would make infinitely more sense to send people a digital copy so they could actually read the book before the interview? And what about the people who already bought the book? You're giving them a second book, sending them a second book. And the interview was awful, it was boring, and it was such an obvious money grab. And again, it's this whole thing where Harry and Meghan tell us they're trying to do something great for society. Harry said he wanted this to help people. He wanted people to get more involved in their mental health. But yet clearly this was all about the money. I'm not stupid. Nobody is stupid. If you wanted to do this before the book launched, to me, that would make more sense, but you're forcing people who maybe read your book and want a little bit more insight to buy a second copy so you can look more like a New York Times bestseller than I think you probably actually were. And to me, that's scuzzy business practices. If I was doing a talk, something like that as an author, I would want to make sure that either people had the option of buying the book if they haven't already, or if it's before the book's launch, hey, you get a special deal, special opportunity if you buy the book as part of the ticket deal, not forcing people again to buy a second copy. And it would actually make more sense too to send people a digital copy. That way, if they had a physical copy, they have a digital one, so maybe they could read it at a different time. That makes sense too. But no, oh no. That's not how Harry operates anymore. It's all about making money. And Meghan Markle is the same. Meghan Markle is exactly the same. So the Tig is all about promoting herself and making money. But she tries to gloss this over. So let me share with you what she gave for her TikTok, which I think is very, very enlightening. So she's asked, my nickname is Meg, MM, M&M, and Flower, which my mom has called me since I was little. 2, the first thing I do when I wake up, pick up my iPhone, kiss the dogs, and walk downstairs with them to let them in the backyard and feed them breakfast. Then while I wait for them to eat, I check some emails and send some texts, and we crawl back into bed for a little snuggle before starting the day. 3, I can't live without my passport. I spend almost every week on a plane and in between travel for work or press, or more importantly, for humanitarian work. It is my access to experience this big, beautiful world of ours. For if I had 1 week to escape, I'd go completely off the grid, which I intend to do next week with some friends, some cocktails, and the sound of the lapping sea. If I only had $10 in my pocket, I would give it to someone who needs it more than I do. Everything tastes better with a little hot sauce. I love a kick to my food. There were 2 things in there that I have a huge issue with. Number one is the thing about the passport. Does she like to travel? Yes. Does she like to do press and promotion and stuff? Yes. Does she do a ton of humanitarian work requiring her passport? No! As far as we know, she did. She went to Rwanda and she went to India as part of World Vision, which at one point she attributed to UN Women, but it was World Vision. As far as we know, she's only done actually 2 humanitarian trips. Maybe 1 to talk about something with UN Women. That's it. This idea that she's going every week on her passport to go and fulfill my humanitarian work is such BS. It's such BS. And then, when asked what she would do with her last $10, I'd give it to somebody else. Oh, give me an ever-loving break. You went to a homeless women's shelter in a $10,000 outfit with a $6,000 purse. Give me an ever-loving break. I read through a lot of the other people's. Nobody said they would give their last $10 away. They would do something interesting. Actually, I love Jessica Alba's response. Her response was awesome. She said, I'd save $5 and double down on a bet with the other 5. I thought she actually said invest, but doubling down. But I love this idea that Jessica Alba, she's like, I'm gonna double my money. Like, bravo for you, girl. That's awesome. Because if you double your money, guess what? Maybe you can give double that money to the person you were gonna give money to and still have money for yourself. Not that you shouldn't give money to people. That's not what I'm saying at all. If you feel led to do something like that, absolutely 100% do it. But the idea that Meghan Markle presents, that if she had $10, the only thing she would do is just give it to somebody else. I'm like, oh, give me a break. We all know how much you love money. Do you love giving money away? Not unless you could perform it doing it. She gave a group of people in Washington, D.C. It's a gun control group of parents against school violence or something like that. She gave them a basket of bagels and coffee, and they had to promote it on their social media accounts. She gave another group, a group on parental leave. She gave them all $25 gift cards to Starbucks. That's nothing. She gave that to, at most, maybe 50 people, which is only a couple $100. Are we supposed to be that impressed by that? No. So this idea that Meghan is this huge philanthropist and she had only $10, she would give it to somebody else. I'm like, oh, BS. Of course not. She would do like, I think Olivia Palmero said that she would go and get a manicure. Hey, be honest. That's the thing I think that's critically missing from Harry and Meghan's narrative. Be honest with us. You want to make money. You want to be famous. You want to have Hollywood at your feet. You don't care about really being a humanitarian. You only want to do that because you think it gains you something. If you were at least honest with us as the public and told us you're just a vain, vapid, shallow person who just wants money, I'd be like, well, at least I know you're being truthful with me. But no, Meghan wraps everything in this veneer that she's this very altruistic person when she's actually very vain and vapid and shallow. And that is the epitome of the Tig. That's all the Tig is. It is so self-indulgent. Let me read you a couple of things that she talked about with people who she interviewed as part of this Tig Talk things. You'll get what I mean. So this is about the Beckerman Twins. So she goes, you see them coming from a mile away. They are the modernized realization of Rainbow Bright ×2. I met the Beckerman Twins, Samantha and Kellyanne, last year at a dinner hosted by the Covenor, my friends and fashion savants. The outlet where I buy fantastic finds like this and this. Their eye for fashion is razor sharp, zeroing in on trends ahead of the curve, relishing both vibrant vintage finds and emerging designers with the same zest. I had a moment where I tried on a piece of clothing a few months ago at 11 a.m. at the Miu Miu store in New York with a shearling coat and a single espresso and had that aha moment. And so much so, I actually had to say aha in that long drawn out way Oprah would say it. You know what I'm talking about? It was then that I understood what people were speaking of. When you realize a piece of fabric acts not just only as clothing but as art, or has the power to actually change your mood, to make you giggle, squeal, and twirl like a schoolgirl. I imagine the Beckerman sisters must feel this every day. When Toronto brings you months upon months of dreary weather, of walks with your dog where your hands freeze, where the wind cuts through your bones, and the skies hang like dark canopy over your head, the Beckerman sisters are the sun. That is if the sun wore vintage Chanel. Okay, so that's 10 times where Meghan said I. She said I 9 times in my 1 time. So, and the big chunk in the middle of that was Meghan talking about herself and her own fashion acumen. Do I know anything about the Beckerman sisters? No, I know nothing about them. I guess they live in Toronto. I guess they like extreme fashion, but other than that, I know nothing about them. But do I know Meghan likes Miu Miu? That she was in New York? That she had this moment and that she likes Oprah Winfrey? Yes, I know those things about her. But do I know anything about the Beckerman sisters? No. So what was the point of that? Unless it was just, again, to promote yourself. That, again, is the issue here. To me, about the Tig, is that the Tig is Meghan wants to say it's about something deeper than it actually is. It's just Meghan wanting to spout her nonsense to people. That's what the Tig is actually about. Here's what she said about Emmy Rossum. You know when you get invited to a dinner party where you will know very few people and wonder who you will be seated next to? You are excited as you are nervous because it could go either way. Someone super cool or someone, well, not so much. Let your fears be gone when you find yourself seated next to Emmy Rossum, who I recently stunned at this year's Met Ball. I recently went to Elle Magazine Women in Television dinner as a guest of my dear friend Joe Z, the new executive creative director at Yahoo. Yay, Joe. But I know what happens at events like these. Joe is busy, he is Joe Z after all, and being pulled in many directions. So I crossed my fingers and hoped that while he was charming the room and seated on the other side of me would be someone nice, someone cool. Hell, just give me someone who actually eats. Cute Emmy, beautiful and polished, yes, but also the girl who orders the steak, not the fish, and who chows down on truffle fritters while wearing a beautiful dress by J. Mendel. I should have known she would have a foot in both, having channeled the elegance of Christine in Phantom of the Opera to currently dominating the greedy Fiona on Showtime's hit series Shameless. Lest we forget, this New York native was named one of People magazine's 50 most beautiful people, presumably for all the reasons I adored her at this dinner. She's a stunner and she keeps it real. My kind of girl. Okay, that time it was 9 times that Meghan referenced herself. And then she asked them just about 6 inane questions. What's your nickname? What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Again, she's talking about herself and then giving the people that she's actually interviewing, which I'm sure is something where she sent the questions to their publicist. Their publicist asked them these questions, they wrote it down, and they sent it back to her. I don't think any of these people really communicated that much with her, that she couldn't give them more time than she actually did. She had to talk about herself, talk about her own experiences. That's what the Tig was about. It was about Meghan herself. And what I found most interesting as well is that even though she supposedly met some of these people she asked these questions to, what does she not include? A picture of them and her. So does that mean one doesn't exist? Because you would think if you sat next to this person, maybe had a bit of a great moment, and decided, hey, I want to ask you these couple of questions. Let's get a picture because I'm going to put it on my blog. Does she do that? No. Why not? Why not do that? Is she afraid she'll be compared next to Emmy Rossum in terms of features? Because Emmy Rossum is beautiful. Emmy Rossum really is quite a gorgeous stunner. Although I've heard she's a bit of a diva, but that's a different thing. But she's an exceptionally beautiful woman. Did Meghan feel resentful that she was so beautiful? She was part of People magazine's 50 most beautiful people, and Meghan would never get on that list having not met Harry? Perhaps. Again, this very, very veneer of, I want this to be about the Tig moment, but it was really all about Meghan. So let me read you what, because her whole thing, the reason why she came up with the Tig is so incredibly dumb and simplistic and uninteresting that it's just a little ridiculous. Several years ago, I had a sip of wine called Tignanello. But let's be real, in the States, most people said Tignanello, or just plain old Tig. The Italiano of it all gets a little tricky. So the bartender kept it simple. It was a glass of Tig. So there I am with a very minimal wine knowledge, and I take a sip of this wine. It wasn't just red or white. Suddenly I understood what people meant by the body, legs, structure of wine. It was an aha moment at its finest. For me, it became a Tig moment, a moment of getting it. From that point on, any new awareness, any new discovery, or, ooh, I get it, moment was a Tig moment. At New York Fashion Week, understanding that clothes aren't just pieces of fabric, but that they can be art, so Tig. Traveling off the beaten track and hand diving for sea urchin in Jamaica, understanding that travel is adventure and discovery, culture and surprise, a Tig moment. Indeed, and the same could be said of my love for cooking and dinner, for cultivating friendships that inspire you, for the idea of beauty and what that means to us, understanding that comes with living your life to the fullest so that it bursts at the seams, an unbridled joy, an insatiable curiosity. That's what Tig means to me. Thank you for joining me in this adventure. I could not be more grateful for your support and companionship on this beautifully wild ride. She also says that Tig is a hub for the discerning palate, those with a hunger for food, travel, fashion, and beauty. Founded by Meghan Markle, a Los Angeles native with a love of farm-to-table dining, off the beaten path travel, style, and timeless allure. She also stars as Rachel Zane in the hit series Suits, now in its 5th season. Meghan created a space to share all these loves, to invite friends to share theirs as well, and to be a breeding ground for ideas and excitement, for an inspired lifestyle. So again, Meghan wants to take this whole idea and make it compete with Goop. There's a lot of issues there. Number one, Goop is, it's an interesting name. Some people said it's between G and P and Gwyneth Paltrow, and then you just put 2 O's in. And I was like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. But Goop to me is interesting. Goop on your face, because you put Goop on your face, you put Goop in your hair, Goop makes sense to me. The Tig, I'm like, what? When I first read that, I remember seeing that going, what? She's terrible at branding. I still think she's awful at branding. I did think Sussex Royal was a bit of a coup for her, but at the same time, it's kind of low grade. It's almost kitschy in a way that doesn't quite bear the regalness of being an actual royal. And so I don't think that totally worked, but Archewell is awful. The Tig is awful. And Sussex Royal, the more I think about it, the less I like it. And then you have Archetype. So Meghan is really terrible at branding. So number one, she can't compete with Goop in terms of branding. And when I went on the Goop site, it was really a website to sell things. That's what it was. Now there is a blog attached to it, and I looked through some of the articles. Everything I saw, none of it was by Gwyneth. Sometimes Gwyneth would be a picture in it and say Gwyneth likes such and such, but it wasn't so Gwyneth obsessed. Now she does have a candle that says, "This candle smells like my vagina." That was a pretty smart, I think, marketing thing, because people just were like, they were scandalized, and then everybody's like, I want one. It's like totally sold out. So it was rather smart branding wise, but can Meghan Markle do that? No. Although Harry said she has the best smell ever, guys. So he was her favorite smell. So we know we'll have, this is Harry, the Duke of Sussex's favorite smell. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. Yes, we will get that candle at some point. But the Goop is about selling things. It is like a lifestyle. It's a very highbrow lifestyle, but it's based on Gwyneth. But I don't think you could look at it and Gwyneth pushes it and Gwyneth is very much the face of it. But it's not so Gwyneth self-indulgent that you can't totally connect to it. Meghan's problem, I think, is that she's so self-indulgent, so narcissistic, that the Tig was just all about her, and unless you were super into the person of Meghan Markle, I don't think you would get that much out of it. And then when I was looking through it as well, Meghan is this huge traveler. She can't live without her passport. She had other people sharing about their travels, where they find stuff, rather than her. So she's so self-obsessed, yet at the same time, she's kind of lazy, so she didn't go to all the travels that she's reporting on. So it's just rather weird and strange. And so I don't think the Tig works that well. And again, if you're so self-indulgent, I don't think people connect to that well unless you have a really good marketing campaign behind you. But we all know that Meghan is incredibly controlling. So can she let go of the Tig to let somebody else control a large portion of it while she's the head and face of it and she pushes certain things that she likes? I don't know if Meghan can do that. And so I honestly think that the Tig is kind of dead on arrival because it wasn't that interesting. It's not really giving you anything that nobody else can give you on Instagram. And I think at the end of the day, Meghan Markle is about the veneer of things. Meghan is obsessed with the Instagram image of things. She loves Instagram. She says she's not into social media, but she totally is. Because in their Netflix series, Meghan Markle said that all she cared about with Harry, her research, was looking at his Instagram because that would give her a flavor of who he is. It's like, no. That gives you a flavor of who Harry wants the world to see him as, not who he actually is. And the Tig is the same way for Meghan Markle. It's who she wants us to think she is. There's actually this rather fascinating video that I had never seen before, Meghan made for UN Women apparently, where she looked all serious. And there were a couple other women in it too, and a guy, and I honestly didn't get it. I honestly was like, I don't get this thing at all. But she wants to think that she's speaking in front of all these powerful people, that everybody wants her to be on their team because she is so awesome. And she's this philanthropist, and they even had a section, a Tig section in press where every time Meghan was mentioned in like the press, and I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, you are so sad right now. She just was so obsessed with fame and fortune, and she's so obsessed with that influencer lifestyle, that influencer lifestyle attached to that of Instagram. That of course, when things are failing, when her time in the monarchy crashed and burned, and her and Harry continue to crash and burn in every endeavor that they've had, that of course she goes back to Instagram. She goes back to the Tig, the thing that she thinks was the most successful for her. And to a certain extent it was, but that was because she had full control over it. Now she has to have a much bigger game on the table. And can she pull it off? I don't know. Because again, despite all the great website it was and everything like that in terms of design and things, at the end of the day, a lot of the photos were stock pictures, at least what I could find. She didn't really have any of the pictures of the people she was actually talking with. It was just this giant vanity project. It really exemplifies who Meghan actually is. which is a vain, vapid, shallow person. And this will continue. And I don't think she can move beyond that, because at the end of the day, at the heart of everything, that's who Meghan is. So do I think this will be a success? Maybe a bit, but not as much as it should be. And there's been reports too that Meghan wants to talk about relationships and give relationships advice. Well, I don't think anybody wants it from a woman who has no relationship with her in-laws or most of her family, except for her mother, who's lost friends, who's dropped friends at the drop of a hat because they maybe made a wrong step in the media. So does anybody really want to hear from Meghan Markle? No. So will this be a success? No, like everything else related to Meghan Markle, I think it'll be a giant failure. But guys, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.